Please, please, just a crumb of overdress news, please. Hello to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at something that I've been actually thinking about for years at this point. Like, this is something I've been thinking about ever since I first got into Vanguard, I think, which is kind of always wondering, like, there's so many aesthetics in other card games that are explored that I always wish would be explored in Vanguard as well. But the thing was that until now, we've always been restricted to the 24 different clans. Well, restricted is a weird way to put it, but because we had the 24 different clans, it kind of felt like, well, I mean, if it doesn't really fit into one of the 24, that probably means it's not going to get explored. And luckily, now that will change because we're no longer restricted to clans, and instead we are in 6 different nations. And as long as it kind of fits, they can do whatever, you know? The new Brancade aesthetic doesn't really fit Nova's DP or Link Joker per se, because it's not robots and it's not aliens, you know, but they are police, so it kind of still relates to Dimension Police, right? So I was like, you know, what are 5 aesthetics? What are 5 different themes that I've wanted to be explored in Vanguard for the longest time that we can finally actually see represented in the future? Because it's one thing that, like, we are all excited to see our clans be represented in the nations, right? Like, I'm excited to see giant robots in Brancade. I'm sure you're excited to see ninjas in Dragon Empire, and, you know, somebody else is excited to see Japanese mythology in Keter Sanctuary. So of course it's exciting to be waiting for your clan's representation in the nations, but, you know, they can only really do that for so long, right? You know, it's gonna get a bit boring or just kind of feel a bit samey, but just like reskinned after some time. But I feel like it's especially now that they can use this kind of new direction to actually explore unexplored territory and see what they can do with it. So here are 5 different aesthetics that I've come up with that I really want to see explored in Vanguard at some point. And please let me know in the comments if there's any aesthetic from like a different card game or video game that you've always wished that Vanguard would explore that now finally they actually can. All right, first things first, I'm going to be ripping from a video game that I really love, that I would love for them to explore, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles. So why am I saying Xenoblade Chronicles? Well, because Xenoblade Chronicles features human characters, you know, or people that look like you and me, you know, normal human characters that use very futuristic looking weaponry. So like swords with like a bunch of lights like radiating from them and like neon looking. And it's not the same as like Link Joker in the sense that they're like, you know, neon soldiers, but this is really just like human warriors that use like basically futuristic weapons. That's as easy as I can explain it, and that would be such a cool direction for like Keter Sanctuary, for example. Like, because Keter Sanctuary is supposed to be like, you know, the future of United Sanctuary, we could easily see less of this kind of like Royal Paladin reskin, Gold Paladin reskin, Shadow Paladin reskin, and just take those knights and just give them like crazy neon swords and like bows and like all kinds of weapons. Like, you can take like Breath of the Wild weapons and stuff like that and throw them in there as well. I feel like that's such a cool aesthetic that they could easily explore all of a sudden. And I don't know, maybe that's just my bias because I really like Xenoblade, but I feel like it'd be cool to see, and you could easily fit that into Keter Sanctuary. You could also fit it into Brancade if you want to as well, because it kind of fits that, you know, futuristic kind of like Space Defender kind of aesthetic as well. But I think that would be really, really cool, and I would love for them to explore like not just the same kind of knights that we've seen until now, but just like different kind of paths as well. Now, this second one is something I think I've been wanting to see in Vanguard since 2013. Like, it's actually been that long that I've been wanting to see this, and that is an ice focus. So don't get me wrong, we have had like ice something like related one or another in the past. Like Kokaitis is like Ice Necromancer, Ice Prison Necromancer, something like that. Shirayuki is, you know, like literally like white snow. You know, it is basically a yokai that is like themed after, you know, snow. And like, sure, there's been some kind of like directions to snow here and there, but we don't really have like an entire archetype based around ice, you know, just like iced something something, just like everything is like ice theme. It's like a cold blue, it's like this like cold white and blue mix, you know, and like everything is just like frost based, you know. So I feel like that's an aesthetic I've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh, that's an aesthetic I've seen in other card games, but somehow in Vanguard it just never appeared. I always kind of expected Aquaforce to explore it for some reason, and that's why I kind of think that maybe in Stoicheia we could see like an ice archetype, so something that is just basically like on the shores of Stoicheia or whatever, that like is like, or like a like distant island or something like that. And I feel like that'd be really cool. Of course, Brancade could also make sense because now it's all like snowed over, but I see the snow more as like, you know how like in Fate Grand Order you have like Chaldea is like covered in snow and it's like a futuristic database, or like, not database, but like base, I guess is the best way to put that. But yeah, that would be really cool, like an ice-based archetype. I feel like that'd be such a cool aesthetic to have, and it's just like, I don't know, it feels weird that it hasn't been explored until now. My third one is actually, this one's like based on the fact that the Dragon Empire boss unit is Chakravarti, which I found out is basically like Sanskrit mythology essentially, or like history, or I'm not really sure how else to put it. But that got me thinking, we've seen different types of mythology explored in Vanguard in the past. So this time it's like Sanskrit, but Fenrir and Fenrir's entire group is Norse mythology, right? So it's Nordic. You know, it's like Fenrir, Gleipnir, all those things. That's basically that side of things. And it's very cool that we've seen that. You know, what I feel like hasn't been explored much, we've seen like the Zodiac Time Beast, for example. So that's more like, you know, that side has been explored too. But more of like also like Chinese or Greek mythology also feels like it's kind of missing, because for example, we don't have like Kirin, like Killin or Kirin, however we want to pronounce it, like based cards outside of like an occasional Gear Chronicle card, I think. Or like, I think Greek mythology in general, like we don't have a Zeus or anything like that, and that's like such a big thing that a lot of other card games like go into pretty hard, and it's kind of weird that we haven't had like a Greek mythology archetype, for example. So I wonder what that would actually fit. Would that go into Keter, because it's kind of like a relative of Genesis? Or would it go more so in Stoicheia because of like science and like wisdom and all that kind of stuff? So it's kind of interesting, but I personally would love to see that like kind of focus on other kinds of mythologies, because, you know, it's cool that they're exploring it now with Dragon Empire already, but I want to see even more of it, because like with card games, it's just like, it's so easy to explore those kind of things, and I feel like it's a kind of missing a opportunity if they don't, so I hope to see that in the future. All right, now this one's a bit more lore based, which is, so you know how like in the new lore, they basically said that Gear Chronicle, you know, like the Zodiac Time Beast went extinct, and then like, or like Gear Chronicle lost its ability to travel through time, so they can no longer time leap, and like striding is no longer possible. I was thinking, as like an homage to even like the old Gears, but not necessarily like reusing old designs, but to take Gear Chronicle in a slightly different direction and in their representation in Dark States, and basically picturing them as Rust Chronicles. So you basically have like units that kind of resemble Gear Chronicle units from the past. So you have something that looks like a like dragon looking like Chronojet. You have something that kind of like looks like, you know, a bunch of like different like Zodiac Time Beast units, or just in general like steampunkish looking units, but they're all rusted over and they're all just like basically not functioning. So you have this like almost like zombified warriors of the past, but they're all like rusty metal. I feel like that'd be really cool, you know. You could kind of like completely change how they work as well, because that like time aspect of Gear Chronicle is basically going to be gone because they lose that power. But having that sort of, I don't know, like aesthetic of like, it's just like basically Rust Gear Chronicle, I feel like it'd be really cool and like a really different kind of touch to the clan. And I feel like it'd be cool to like just explore that kind of space as well, because the lore specifically allows for it. Especially, I think they also had like the first ever Gear Chronicle stride that like in the anime shows up in like a rusted form before it's like awakened or whatever. So maybe even like coming back to that, you know, they're just like hollow like bodies without a soul, you know, like that kind of thing. It's really, really cool. And you could even like, it doesn't necessarily have to be Dark States, it could be in Stoicheia with the rest of Grand Blue, but I feel like they want to keep that to like the kind of Eldritch horrors. But this kind of like Rust Chronicle, I feel like would be a really cool aesthetic to explore. All right, and now this time I'm gonna take something that is explored in abundance in other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, but has been barely touched upon in Vanguard in certain decks, which is birds. The simple way to put it is, somehow Yu-Gi-Oh managed to take birds and make two really cool and very memorable archetypes around them. We had Black Wings, and we also had essentially the Raid Raptors, which were also really, really cool. So you have two different aesthetics based around birds, whereas Vanguard just like kind of splashes birds here and there. Like Luard has a bunch of different birds in it. Sure, that's cool, you know. And there's some other decks that like have birds kind of like as some important units, you know, like we've seen them in like Gear Chronicle, for example, too, or like, you know, there'll be like birds kind of scattered around certain support here and there, or like Minerva's like owl thing, for example. So it's like they're scattered here and there. But I'm thinking like really just like how in Black Wings and in Raid Raptors, it's all just birds. All of it is just birds. I'm not even a big fan of birds, but for some reason other card games just do bird decks so well that I want to see Vanguard's take on it. I want to see Vanguard attempt a bird deck and just see what they do with it. Put it in Stoicheia. I can't believe I'm putting almost everything here in Stoicheia. It's actually crazy. Because like I guess the Rust Chronicle is Dark States. Keter Sanctuary is maybe like the Xenoblade one and like the Mythology one, and then like the Ice one is either Brancate or Keter as well, and then like Dragon, yeah, and then yeah, birds I guess are Stoicheia too. So, but then again, I'm kind of touching base on all of them. It's just because we don't know anything about Lyrical Monasterio that it's really hard to come up with something for that. But they could easily do like a, I don't know, sea animals as like kind of archetype there. But yeah, I feel like that'd be really cool as well, like to just have like a bird deck. So those are honestly my 5 ideas of like aesthetics that Vanguard could explore in the future. I feel like it's almost like a missed opportunity to not have explored some of these, like the ice theme especially just feels like such an obvious one that they could have explored until now, but you know, they haven't. It's not a problem. That just means that now that we're not like locked into the aesthetics of those 24 clans, they can choose to do something pretty crazy with them, and I hope that they explore that space and don't just stick to the clan aesthetics the entire time. But yeah, that's basically it for me. That's my opinion on like 5 different aesthetics they could explore in Vanguard. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on what you think could be explored in Vanguard as well, what kind of aesthetics that you've been kind of longing for or expecting for Vanguard to cover one day. And yeah, I'll look through the comments, maybe pick out some good ones and cover them in the future video too, who knows, but otherwise I might just talk about them on my streams. So on that note though, that's gonna be it for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.